Hello, everyone. Over the weekend, WDI USA board member Irene Lawrence and representatives of other women's groups gathered at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts, in protest of the historically Women's College decision to award Admiral Richard Rachel Levine an honorary degree during its commencement ceremony, where he was also scheduled to speak. While LARPing as a woman, Levine served as the Assistant Secretary for Health at HHS during the Biden administration, and in that capacity, demanded that WPATH remove from its guidelines all age limits on medical procedures aimed at disguising the sex of minors. The women carried a WDIS USA/AHF banner, distributed flyers, and otherwise engaged with passersby, which included Smith alumni, some of whom agreed with their support of women. Notably, one young woman wearing a Transformers t shirt became highly distraught at the sight of the banner and ranted, swore at, and called the women fascists for promoting it. Video of that encounter and other content from the event can be found on our social media platforms. Moving on to national news, I've spoken before about Colorado HB 25 1312, an authoritarian bill recently fast tracked through the Colorado legislature. Earlier in the month, the bill passed the Colorado Senate on a party line vote, albeit with a number of amendments that the executive director of Protect Kids Colorado referred to as a smokescreen to make it appear that the bill is somehow palatable or constitutional. As originally written, 1312 would not only criminalize dead naming and misgendering as discriminatory acts, but also require courts to consider them as types of coercive control or child abuse when making child custody decisions, essentially coercing parents to transition a child or risk losing their parental rights. While the amendments added under the intense public pressure removed some of the bill's more egregious provisions, such as the family court language and its shield law component, parental rights and First Amendment advocates were not placated. On Friday, Colorado Governor Jared Polis signed the draconian bill into law, and yesterday, the Colorado Parent Advocacy Network filed a federal lawsuit in conjunction with other advocacy groups as plaintiffs to challenge the law. Next month, Maine Governor Janet Mills is to be honored with the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Award in recognition of her defiance of Trump's executive order protecting women and girls' sports from male participation, which is ironic considering her administration's refusal to abide by federal civil rights law undermines the fundamental human rights of every female athlete in the state. Despite the governor's posturing, two Maine school districts have now independently moved towards compliance with federal law in defiance of the state government's position. Last month, the Ogden MSAD 70 board voted unanimously to adopt policies consistent with Title IX, including a ban on male participation in female sports. And last week, Maine's Regional School Unit 24 school board voted to revoke its transgender and gender expansive students policy in its entirety, reaffirming parental rights and protecting female only spaces. Unfortunately, the impact of the vote on the school's transgender athlete participation policy remains somewhat unclear. The now repealed policy did not officially determine whether males would be allowed to compete against girls, leaving that decision up to the Maine Principals Association. Though the board has repealed that provision, it did not adopt an alternative policy specifically banning males from girls' sports. Hopefully, they will. Meanwhile, Maine Rep. Laurel Libby is still being censured for refusing to apologize over her stance in opposition to male athletes competing in girls' sports. For nearly 3 months, Libby has been barred from doing her job and remains unable to speak on the House floor or vote on the various legislative matters before the chamber. The censure not only silences her, but effectively disenfranchises disenfranchises her constituents. Last month, Rep. Libby filed an emergency injunction pending appeal with the Supreme Court seeking the High Court's intervention to lift the censure after lower courts denied her motion for immediate legal remedy. Her case has garnered support from the attorneys general of 15 states, who argue that the actions taken against Libby are a flagrant violation of our constitutional right to equal protection. Equal representation, pardon me. I'll close with two big wins out of Texas. On the 12th, the Texas House passed HB 229, also known as the Women's Bill of Rights, which codifies sex-based terms and stipulates that the terms man and woman be interpreted according to this binary definition throughout state law. State Rep. Ellen Troxclair, who filed the bill, said upon its passage that Texas is protecting the safety, privacy, and rights of women and girls across our state. The bill now moves on to the Senate, where it is likely to pass. The second bill that passed the House along party lines was SB 1257, which passed the Senate last month. This bill requires that health measures covering gender transition treatments, such as surgeries, hormone therapies, and other medical interventions, also provide coverage for adverse effects, medical complications, function, recovery, and reconstruction procedures resulting from those treatments. The bill now heads to the governor for his signature. Of note, a similar bill was recently signed into law in Montana. And that's all I have today. Thank you.